YouTube show, full of fun facts you need to know. Carl rings the bell and the members show to the GMP Morning Show. Featured guests will come and they will blow your mind. The audience will do so in kind. A little vanity mixed with some insanity on the morning show with GMP. Hey, Gumpers.
Oh, hola, bon dia, alegria. Munson here with the Good Morning Portugal show, live stream and podcast. I think this frame might be better, and I still haven't quite got to grips with the sudden ending of the theme tune. I'll do something about that when I recut it on Sunday, when we feature a new Portuguese point of interest. It's Porto this week. Porto or Porto. If you'd like to share your experience of Porto, your favorite places to go to there, or questions you have about it if you haven't been already. So our Portuguese place of interest this week, Porto. Find out more on our website or at the Portugal Club if you're a member over at the Portugal Club. Our Portuguese treat of the week. I haven't had many responses in on whether you like canela, the cinnamon sprinkled on your pastel de nata, and whether you indeed like a pastel de nata. I assume that people do because I think it's a delightful thing, and was actually figured quite highly, largely in my attraction to Portugal, I have to say. And I do like a creamy, custardy, runny, fresh out of the oven pastel de nata at my favorite local cafe, or local cafes here in San Martino de Porto. We have a car of the week, of course, chosen by Colin, and more to come next week in all of these areas and these special selections, and a property of the week, not in Porto, but San Martino de Porto, with the wonderful Adelia, who's introduced me to a new property app, actually, for Portugal, which I must take a look at. Proper Tips. Anybody taking advantage of that particular property finding, property selling app? I'm going to, I think it's going to be mainly me on screen. We might have a few calls, hopefully, this morning on 00351 913 590. So I'm going to, that's better, isn't it? And then zoom out a little bit. Oh, that's not working. But anyway, that's better, I think, on the screen. Good morning to you, Joao Ernesto de Lima. Good morning to you, Veronica, who I think might call in about, well, I'm not entirely sure what's going on now. There are new EU baggage rules debunked. So let me save that and bring it onto the screen. Veronica's all over that. I think anticipating some trouble taking liquids and or the redesign of the rules around taking baggage onto airplanes. Turns out she's debunked that, and it's one of those stories, I think, typical silly season sort of thing, where if something can be spun to make some sort of controversy, it is, and it spins it far away from the original story, which it turns out might not be a story at all. It might just be a suggestion or something that's being talked about that gets turned into a full-on news story. So I think Veronica will call in not too far from now on 913-590-303. And if you have any news picks or feature picks yourself that you would like to talk about, I mean, let's have a quick look at the before we say hi to everyone this morning. And the reason we're doing this morning is we have a fifth Thursday and a fifth Friday where we break from our usual schedule. So Portugal News homepage. There's a few things on there that may or may not attract your interest. You can tell it's a quiet news time when the leading article is Top Brands Invest 6 million euros in new facilities. That's a shop. And quite often. Let's get Veronica live on the phone into the Good Morning Portugal show. First call coming in this morning. Good morning, Veronica.
Good morning. How are you today?
I'm very well, thank you. How about you?
Good. I think I have to put you on mute because you're just behind on the channel.
Oh,
right?
I see. That's going to be annoying, isn't it? Yeah. And
use that and we'll get feedback. There we go.
Well,
thank you. See you and listen to you.
Thank you for bringing this particular story to our attention. Before we go to that, let me just look at a few more other items on the front page. New direct flight to Canada. I think there's been a new direct flight to Iceland also. announced calls to end Lisbon night flights, which might, although there are new direct flights coming in from Canada and Iceland, it looks like the embargo on night flights into Lisbon, which must be very difficult for people who live there. That will be, those are calls. Typical news story at the moment, calls. Nothing tangible necessarily. Staying with airports and air travel, minimum services decreed for strike at Portugal airports, so watch out for that. And as you fly into Lisbon, there's a Lisbon metro line closure, which we might look at. Lisbon's still attractive for digital nomads. And that story that I'm sure you know something about, Veronica, Portugal's second-hand cars are the least affordable in Europe. Oh, and another airline story. Play Airlines expands with new Faro route. I don't think I don't feel particularly comfortable with an airline called Play. I would prefer them to call themselves Serious or Professional rather than Play while they're up there in the skies. Front page, we will come to you in just a moment, Veronica. Thank you for calling in on 913-590-303. Quick look at the Portugal resident homepage, which is being covered by an annoying pop-up. Now, demand for Algarve property increases. That, again, may be of interest to you, Veronica. New projects unveiled, including the one you brought to our attention. Fatasil tickets sell out for the first time in 43 years. Not sure what that is. I know the president approved of it. And Portimao to install CCTV cameras in town centre. What's wrong with the old ladies who usually look out of their balcony windows and tell us what's going on, which is the traditional Portuguese CCTV. There she is, her and her friends keeping an eye on the streets there. Right, Veronica, let's go to you now. And this... well, it's not really, it's a non-story, isn't it? Is it a silly season classic?
Yeah, it is. But you know how horrible, you're already paying all this extra money for baggage these days. How horrible to show up and think that this would be free and then they're going to hit you with fees.
Yeah.
So here we're seeing these stories. And one gal that I watched on YouTube, she's just adorable. She's put the sizes and how great it's going to be to travel, basically free through Europe, right, without all these extra fees. Because I just paid a few hundred extra. I'm going to be going on a cruise next month, and I'm going on dwelling. You can take essentially almost no luggage, not even like a carry-on in the cabin itself with you. So we had to pay hundreds, literally hundreds extra. Our flight went from 100 to 300 in order to check a bag and then put one in the overhead.
That's outrageous.
So,
on a cruise, you say?
Well, we have to fly to get to where we're going.
Oh, okay, yeah, because cruising, normally they let you take as much as you want, don't they? There's not a space issue with ships necessarily.
Yeah, they're not trying to kind of upsell. It's like kind of the EU and looking at the EU resolution, because I thought, okay, here's this article, and I don't know if you want to pop up that first article I sent you.
Is that the first one? Airlines can indeed charge passengers for carry-on luggage.
No, did I not send you
You probably did.
Sorry.
Oh,
but most people can look it up if they just look it up, because it does show up as, an interesting story. It actually popped up on my news feed because I've got all these filters for the things that I look for. You can set your Google filters for, I'll do Villarreal, I'll do Santo Antonio, property housing market stats, travel information. And so when this popped up, I thought, cool, especially because it just happened to me. And I know it happens to everybody. I see people fighting all the time in the airlines with a counter agent saying, oh, but you know what, this is my carry-on. And they're like, no, that's too big. It's an inch too big. So there's no standardization.
It's stressful,
right?
Isn't it? It's really stressful because you think you've done your best to make sure everything's going to go smoothly. And you think, I know this bag's okay. And what difference is an inch going to make in the overhead cabin, so to speak? And it's just an added stress that you really don't need when you're traveling.
No, and I think it's that way on a lot of different travel channels where you're like, oh, it's only 25 euros to fly here or 30, and they get people all excited. And it's unfortunate because a lot of them are budget travelers and they may be new to travel. They don't even know to go in depth and scour all of the little hidden rules.
Right.
And they've just blown their food budget, or, now they're putting stuff on credit cards they'll have to pay for when their intent was for a trip within their budget. And I think transparency is the issue, and kind of a bait and switch. Your ticket's only 25 or 50 euros, but and if you don't add in your luggage when you're booking your ticket or checking in, then when you get to the airport to take your flight, they've doubled or tripled even the amount that it costs for that check-in bag.
Yeah.
Right.
And what if it's a family of 4 or 5 and they all face that? That ends up as a lot of money, doesn't it?
Yeah. And I know a lot of people that go through and they limit what they're bringing because they know they can do, okay, we've got a family and we're going to do 2 check bags because that's what we can carry, but you need all the stuff with the kids, to your point, with 4 kids.
Yeah.
So we're going to check those, and then each kid's going to have a backpack, and, mom and dad's going to have a rolling on, carry on, plus the kids and whatnot for the airport itself. And then you get there, and I've seen it where the clients almost miss their flight because then that person that they're checking in with is telling them, oh, we can't even take money here. You've got to go to the customer service counter to pay for it.
Stress attack. We don't need that.
So, I always say show up 2 hours early for your flight and be calm and relaxed, enjoy it. Watch everybody else tripping over their luggage and kids and angry at each other because they're in that stress mode.
Yeah.
Get there early. You don't know what's going to be sprung on you, but definitely when you read something like this and the article says, hey, now you've got some, free free check-in baggage, or hopefully it's been added into the cost of your ticket.
Yes.
If somebody's read that, they're going to be just blindsided. And this is happening September 1st. That's just Monday. So not a lot of time to get news out. And it is amazing to see how many other news agencies don't fact check. Right. They just look at somebody else's article, and in the rush to press. Yes. And I know this because I wrote a couple things in Facebook that somebody picked up on. It was an unfortunate event where my brother-in-law had been killed in a bicycle race, both of them by a drunk driver. Whoa. And I wrote a couple things, and somebody picked up some of my condolences from the Facebook and put it in a news article and misspelled my last name, which is easy to do. And then that article went everywhere. It went all over the world with my misspelled last name. So I'm like, you all didn't do any research. You copy and paste. That first article.
Yes. This is where we're at, isn't it? This is where we're at with news gathering now. All sorts of really unflattering and unhelpful influences in the mix there, when ideally it's about getting information to people. So, I mean, let's see what we can do with this one then. So the basic information is the changes about what you can take onto a plane from next week, basically, or this weekend, right? So, and then that's what's got out of hand now. So what do you think what's the original idea? Because I didn't even know that the liquid rules had changed, but they're changing again, are they? That's the first part of this.
So the liquid rules, actually, when I first texted you, I'm like, hey, I found this article and here's a positive, but, want to go do some fact checking. We're going to all be able to bring on more liquids, because we've all had to throw away nice perfumes or, our bag was a little bit too big. No, the liquid rules are actually decreasing because some of the airports, some of the larger airports had these bomb checking devices, and these bomb checking devices were so good that they were allowing people to take more than the 100 milliliter amount. Yes. So that's what they were saying was changing, not that the rest of us could bring more. So the headline was a bit misleading. And, then I started doing investigating, going, oh, no. It's not that everybody's going to be able to bring on more to the equivalent as if they all had these high-powered bomb checking machines, which, then you could bring in as much as you wanted, almost is the way the artitle positioned it.
And it wasn't legislation. It was just a happy accident, as it were, rather than something that had been planned or now permissible.
Yeah, but what they did was in those airports now where people are used to bringing on more liquids and not worrying about it, the EU has standardized to bring them back down to the 100 milliliter limit.
Okay.
in the bag. And so everybody is now going to have the same limit because they said it was confusing people. They'd show up at one airport and be able to bring on lots of liquids and then go to another and they could bring less. So they're actually dumbing it down. They're bringing it to the lowest common denominator.
So it stays where it was then, does it? Basically, it's the 100 mils, and that's what people, I mean, that's what we want to get to this morning, isn't it? Is what people are up against to minimize the stress when they are traveling around Europe. So is it true to say that 100 mils, stick to that and you should be okay?
Yes.
Right. Okay.
Yes. So, it's not that it stayed the same, though, because you did say it stayed the same. It doesn't stay the same for the larger airports.
Sorry. Yes.
The larger airports, they're going to have to carry less.
Right.
So they're going to be sad if they bring their big bottle of perfume or shampoo and have to dump it at security.
Yes, that's right. And that, thereby depriving some nice Christmas presents for the security staff, I think, as well. Yes.
There you go.
Yeah, maybe.
There you go.
Maybe.
So
I don't know.
That's the important thing.
Yes.
And then if you've read these articles, if they popped up in your newsfeed like mine did, and you don't think, oh, I have to do all this research because it's news, it's on the internet, must be true, right?
Yes.
It is that fake news, and we're seeing it more and more. And you've just got to fact check it. You've got to go, oh, well, that sounds interesting. But it was near impossible to get to the EU resolution for me to find it.
Yeah.
And it was really a discussion. And I sent it to you, and I had to even run it through my AI. Did use AI on this to dumb it down for the key points because it's all in legal speak.
Right.
And then I found and sent you also the graphic from a company that does airline law. And it's this company called Pioneer Law. And they went through it and they said that the resolution, which is arisen at the request of the Committee on Petitions, is not legally binding and it has no direct or application. So things that the EU discussed, it's not law just because they discussed it. It's just the way it was. Don't get excited by it. Maybe it will change. This is at least a step in the right direction. The EU is acknowledging that this isn't cool.
Yeah.
That it's not fair.
All right.
That every size is different and there should be a standardization.
Okay. So you've done some work here to come up with a simplified summary whereby people can play it safe. So we'll make sure that that's available to people as well. So we've got the allowance is likely to be one cabin bag with the dimensions. And so that's the key takeaway here, thanks to you, is to play it safe.
That's their suggestion.
Yeah, but you got to play it safe. Go small. Go small rather than large. Less liquids rather than more liquids to minimize your stress at the airport.
But my suggestion would still be go to your airline page on their requirements because many of them are smaller than the suggestion, right? And the suggestion I saw for Welling was crazy, and some they're even selling luggage guaranteed carry-on size, and then you get through to, you don't even check in because you go straight to the gate because you've made everything fit, and they've got that little box, and it doesn't fit in that little box. I had that happen to me.
Did you?
And they were going to, and they were going to charge me €50 at the gate, and I said, wow. I said, I'm not even trying to be cheap. I'm like, I bought priority. I bought the front row seat because I'm so tall. I paid later. I'm like, where other people may have paid $30 for this ticket, look at it, I paid $200. And they're like, it doesn't matter. Your baggage doesn't fit in that box by literally a millimeter.
Right. Well, that's it. I am going to go and get some scissors and pliers. I'm going to make it fit in that thing. You watch me. And you see people freaking out at the airport like that. And it's understandable, isn't it?
And I paid for priority because I am in the front row, which means you can't store anything under your seat. And I wanted the bag next to me. Otherwise, everybody puts their bag in the very front, and then they hike to the back. So even if you pay for those front row seats, you half the time you can't store your bag in the front. So then you're stuck paying for priority also. So your purse can be next to you because you can't even put your purse with you when you're on takeoff and landing.
I can't take my handbag. I've gone to a lot of trouble to match my handbag with my shoes, and then they tell me that I can't believe what
No,
I'm.
you can take it just if you're in the front row seat.
Yes.
It's a safety issue. There's no place to put it. So
Right.
you have to put it in the overhead compartment on takeoff and landing. Well, if you can't put it next to you, you don't want it in the back of the cabin with all your money and passports and everything.
Exactly.
So,
Now,
so you go to get on first, and then they're trying to charge you money, so you're the last one on your flight, and then there's almost no space for your baggage, and you're like, ah.
well,
So
take some sedatives and have a drink as well. There's my advice to add when you're flying by plane. I mean, the golden age of air travel is behind us. Let's face it. And but thank you for trying to make some sense of this, Veronica. This is the headline was the original headline: new EU carry-on baggage rules to take effect on September the 1st. This is another thing about news stories now, isn't it? Is the clip art library photos, and I'm guilty of this myself because I don't have a photography department apart from myself. And if ever I need a photograph, I'm going to Canva, and it looks like that's what they did here. There is another added piece of legislation I'm going to suggest now. Did you look closely at the gentleman in the photograph here? Did you see this man?
No.
Well, I think there should be a surcharge. If you want to wear blue shoes like he's got on, you should have to pay more. Don't you think? I mean, his bag does. I mean, the shoes. I mean, blue shoes. Come on, but they don't. That really doesn't match the bag, does it? I don't know what's going on with that bag and shoe combo. I think he was late packing and getting to the plane. That does look, and the top half is he's like a party at the bottom and he's business at the top, hoping for an upgrade. I don't know what's going on right there, but he should have to pay more for those shoes at least, I would say. Right. Last, there is some info coming in. Well, some comments coming in. I remember seeing ads for clothes that are also luggage. That's aimed at those people who wear all of their clothes on top of each other to avoid having to pay extra weight. And the real kicker here, this is what's really awful about this. And it's kind of like a motif of our times in many ways. This kind of don't let a crisis go to waste. Because as you said, you know, people see a commercial opportunity, don't they? And will sell an approved bag. And old guy in Europe, the OG in Europe, James, the unfortunate thing about all this regulation of luggage and contents is that the research has shown that it essentially does nothing to reduce or eliminate danger. So it's a waste of time anyway. And the carry-on dimensions should be standardized. He's not a shoulder. He doesn't like to should. He doesn't like to should. But on this occasion, I agree with him. It would save so much hassle for people. And yes, what Veronica says, he says, and Pam's here, who does like a warm, runny pastel donata. My perfect holiday is traveling in my own car. And it makes sense why people will get to that, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah. Pre-flight.
I do love it. I do love going in my own car because I always say, put as much stuff as I want in it. When Tracy and I went to Tomar last minute with you, she's like, what should I bring? I'm like, doesn't matter. We have the car. Throw everything in like those bags, those grocery bags. If you don't know if you want to take it or not, throw it in there. We have the car.
And we'll go to a shop. We'll go to a Chinese shop and pick up anything we forget. Right. That's the way to do it. Right, Veronica, thank you so much for that. How are things in the Algarve at the moment? I'm sure it's lovely.
Oh, they're so fun, and they're going off. I sent you that clip in the big group chat. That's fun. We had we have a lot of events that I haven't been checking every little thing, and I'm active. I'm going out all the time to things. We had movie night on the river, and it was just gorgeous. Cool. Big movie screen, and on one side you've got the moon set or the moonrise because it faces east. So
beautiful.
The moonrise is gorgeous. Boat sitting there. We're going and buying wine and drinks from the two little kiosks on the river, and here's the movie playing, and not that many people showed up early, so we got front row seats, and the sound was great, and it was a nice cool breeze sitting outside. Perfect night. We're all crying together outside, and people are walking their dogs. It's just, there's so much going on. We've been going to dance nights. The city's been hosting bands, or the county, all over the county on the east. There's next cities. We just had the medieval festival and parades again this year. It's nonstop here, and it's just fun.
There you go.
Oh yeah, that one.
We're running the movie. That outdoor cinema is such a lovely thing, isn't it? And you're sat by the water, the moonlight there. That is a fantastic thing. And the point you made was, it's like hidden in plain sight again. It was a pop-up, basically, was it? And you're just like, oh, we have this as well.
They have them all summer. They had this brochure
Yeah.
It's huge. And that was just some of the advertisements up there that they were showing on there of all the stuff they've got going on.
Yes.
And, for all we say that, August is a crazy tourist month and, sometimes we feel like we need to duck and cover, go join the activities.
Yeah. Yeah.
It,
There you go.
really
Cheers.
fun.
Sold. Oh, stop it, Veronica. This looks fantastic.
Isn't it cool? Look at
Yeah.
that. Seriously, the moon coming up, the little catamaran there. I'm cheersing with my wine. And they gave me a wine glass. Look at that.
Yeah,
It's
that's
a wine
right. Because
glass.
we
See
can
that
be
little
trusted.
kiosk?
We can be
Yes.
trusted with sharp
Yes.
objects.
Yes. And then there was a band playing over there when the music went, when this was over, where that little pop-up kiosk was,
Yeah.
with the alcohol. Then there's a little guy who's got the pop-up kiosk with food and alcohol. Look at that.
And
Come on.
people going about their business as well. Absolutely wonderful. Love you, Portugal.
Yeah.
Love you, Veronica. Thank you so much for being with us this morning. Really appreciate it. Giving us a call on 913-590-303. And we'll see you next time. And I think you're going to bring Richard with you from the Big Kinta development, the senior living development. He's going to come with you, I think, next time you're on.
Let's coordinate that. Perfect.
Wonderful. All right. You have a great day. Bon dia. Ciao, ciao. Thank you so much.
Bon dia, ciao.
Ciao, ciao. Now, there you go. That's how to make a phone call into the Good Morning Portugal show. And we're already at 9:30. So we better get a move on and cover some of the other things that I intended to share with you. Yeah, Porto, do let us know. We may have to hold this over until tomorrow and talk more about our Portuguese place of interest, which is Porto this week. However, this might combine the Portuguese treat with our Portuguese place of interest, which is Porto. And I was in a cafe. Was it yesterday or the day before? I was cycling back from near Caldas to Renha. It was pretty arduous, I have to say. I often enjoy that cycle ride. I found it really hard work the other day. So I had to stop. I had to stop at a cafe, which I've passed. And I don't know, do you do this? I go past, a quick comment, actually. I'll come back to that. A quick comment from Joao Ernesto. As a kid, I don't remember there even being such a thing as carry-on luggage. Everything was always checked in. I think you're right. I guess it was with the advent of the overhead cabin locker where that became possible. And that's great, isn't it? I mean, if you travel like I do and you've only got your carry-on and you don't have to wait to pick up luggage and you can just be, well, in theory, be in and out. That's a good thing, but not with all these added problems. As a kid, I flew exactly once with my parents from LA to San Francisco. I was not paying attention to luggage at the time. I bet you were excited, weren't you? And when you were a kid, did they even have planes? Ouch! Ooh! Oh dear, oh dear. Sorry, I'm sorry. I'm such a chatty Cathy. I always take it. You don't. No, it's fine. Please don't apologize. It was really good of you to bring that to our attention this morning, Veronica. Not a problem. I didn't fly until I was 34. Says Viv. That's amazing, isn't it? And carry-on luggage seemed to emerge with the budget airlines who started charging separately for checked-in luggage, but then they who started. Oh, okay, yeah. You didn't have to at first, did you? And then they saw an opportunity. It's always about seeing the opportunity, isn't it? First plane ride when I was 6 on Singapore Airlines. I was given a pair of captain's wings. You see, you don't get that anymore. And a little model airplane, solid metal too. I remember, back in those sort of days, you could say to the hostess or the steward, is there any chance we could go and visit the pilot in the cockpit? And well, I'll ask him. Yeah, come on, just walk in and have do you want to go? Do you want to fly this thing for a minute? And I remember being on a flight many years later. I was on my own flying to Australia, and there was a little lad sat next to me, and I said to his mum, "Shall I ask if we can go and have a look in the cockpit?" And I asked the stewardess, and it was like, "Can I see your passports?" And they saw that we weren't related. And I think it's like, this is a potential hostage situation. There's no way we're letting these people in the cabin anymore. We just can't do that. Sad. It's changed. The golden age of air travel is way behind us. I love checking luggage and carrying nothing. No liquid requirements also. That's true. Yeah, thanks, Veronica, for that. So what was I talking about? Oh, yes, I was talking about, talking about Portuguese treats, do you drive past a cafe and think to yourself, mental note made, I will pop in there one of these days? I do. And on this cycle ride back from Caldas to San Martinho de Porto, I was cycling on the country lanes, which is my preference. But good morning to you, Michael Heron. Bon dia alegria. Good to see you here, mate. And we'll come back to Coach Turner's God Squad tip of the day a little bit later on. Oh, good morning to you as well, Deagle. Must say hello to everybody. Yeah, Pam, good to see you, Pam. Oh, and happy birthday, Lee McGrady, for yesterday, and Henry Jeffries, your birthday today. So happy birthday to you. Yeah, so I popped into this cafe, And I was thinking, oh, this is good. They're doing the Francesina, which I believe was my opening meme this morning. Please don't mess with my Francesina. I love you, but don't touch my Francesina. It said on the website of the featured folks who were on this daytime TV channel, a show called, I think, The Place of Joy, Praça da Alegria. And there came a point when these people were talking about their wood-fired Francesinas. See what I mean about Portuguese streets? I've got a video of this. I've got to video the telly. I was the only one in there. And the lady who made my tosta mista and made the late for me must have thought, this guy's a bit weird. He's now videoing the TV inside the cafe here. But anyway, I had to share this with you. A Portuguese treat for the future, and it originates from the Portuguese place of interest this week, Porto. It is the wood-fired Francesina. What do you think of this? I think she liked it. She was, you know how they have a popular recording artist on these TV shows, and they mime to one of their tracks, and none of the microphones are plugged in, none of the instruments are plugged in, and no one seems to care. They play one of their latest tunes, and then they get the guest, don't they? That lady was trying out the wood-fired, the forno de leña, the wood-fired oven Francesina. And forgive me, it's a place in between Espinho and Porto. I will make sure it does get added to our list, our growing list of favorite restaurants in the Portugal Club. I forget the name of the establishment, but they are famous for their wood-fired Francesina. Would you or wouldn't you? And I don't suppose that you would want to sprinkle canela on there. Right, we had a look at some of the headlines, didn't we, on the Portugal News and the Portugal Resident. At which point Pam said she wasn't very keen on the Portugal News. Keep that a secret. Although he's got broad enough shoulders to take it, hasn't he? Oh no, I'm thinking of Bruce. He's my boss over at the Portugal Resident. He's the owner of the Portugal Resident. You're not fond of the Portugal News. However, on that note, I think we will be getting, you might want to bring this to the attention of Chris Sainty. Do you remember him? He used to be the British ambassador. He is now heading up the Portugal News's efforts as a Lisbon, and I think there's Lisbon and Porto editions coming soon of the Portugal News. I've been in touch with Chris, and he will be coming to see us on the Good Morning Portugal show soon. So we'll chat with him, and you can give him your opinion then, Pam. Bon dia todos from Ubi. Ubi's here. I have opinions on flying and sandwiches. Ubi, you always have opinions, and you're not afraid to share them, I've noticed. So are you talking about the sandwiches that you get on a flight? As probably you've been trying EasyJet and Ryanair, having spent some time here in Portugal now. Oh, here we go. I was going to ask you if you'd share. You already did. The Reuben sandwich is my favorite at the moment. This is a thing I've heard other Americans talk about, sandwich. Please don't do that. It is the sandwich made by, or first, I think, invented by the Earl of Sandwich in His Majesty's United Kingdom. Please don't call it a sandwich. That is vulgar and common. I will now refer to it from here on in as a sandwich, if you don't mind. It's my favorite at the moment is the Reuben. This has nothing to do with air travel. So I see what you did there, Ubi. To share this opinion about sandwiches, you said, I have opinions on flying, to be topical. And then you said sandwiches as well, with bunny ears, because I will not be saying that as if it came forth from my own mouth. And then you began to talk about sandwiches. Easy to make and sublime. Normally, I'm not a big fan of sauerkraut, but it works with corned beef, a grill, and Swiss cheese. And I'm doubly upset with you now, Ubi, because I really feel hungry hearing about that. I had some prosciutto from Mercadona, which is pretty good. They carve it in the store, then they shrink pack it. And I had some sweet dill pickles with that in my sandwich. You made me say it. I had that myself. I had a little bit of that sweet and sour pickle thing going on with a little bit of prosciutto this morning. My biggest old school flying regret is never getting to experience flying on the upper deck of those double-decker 747s. The Jumbo. I always imagined that being the ultimate flying bucket list item. That or Concorde, right? Now, the thing is, Gerard Ernesto, if you wait long enough, somebody is going to make that happen, aren't they? There is somebody who is probably marketing flying on the top deck of the 747 as a special experience. But what a lovely memory. And that was very much part of the Singapore Airlines fleet, wasn't it? The Jumbo and the Singapore Girls, as I think they were referred to in their own advertising campaigns there. Getting on a plane for the first time in my life. Wow, Jackie, please take pictures. Don't get yourself thrown off or pose a security risk in doing so. But that is lovely that you're getting on a plane for the first time in your life. I mean, 21 and flying for the first time, that's pretty amazing. But please let us know how that goes. Porto native, who introduced us to the amazing Porto Francesina, told us the special taste in Porto is beer in the sauce. Yeah, of course. And it was delicious. It's a real blokey meal, isn't it? With chips as well on the side. I want one. I want one of Obi's sandwiches, and I would like a Francesina right now as well. Maybe that's what I'll go and do this lunchtime. Bon dia, just sent you photos. Yay! Wood-fired Francesinas. Was it that company? You legend. And now I remember it's all coming back to me. Thank you, Michael, for this. This is wonderful. And I think it might be that company who are based in between Espinho and Porto, combining Portuguese treats and Portuguese places of interest. I think this might be them. And they do deliver by Uber Eats and all those sorts of things as well. Yeah, this is from the Francesina Festival. Yes, we have those here in Portugal. Francesina festivals, everybody. The Festa de Francesina. In Portuguese, I suspect. And here are the pictures to prove it. Now, thank you, Michael. These are wonderful. So there's, and I think you went there quite early, as a typical foreigner might do, early on in your expat days here in Portugal. No one there yet, apart from you and Karen. And you see in the distance, you're drawn to the primal element of fire and the smell of food, of burning cheese. And you get to look at these. Isn't this amazing? You get to see these and you say to yourself, I must have one of those. It is. That's the company. It's Alfândega. Francesinas em Forno a Lenha. Thank you, Michael, for coming to my aid on this. That's what that young lady was eating on that TV show. And it's all come full circle now. So let's put this on our food bucket list, shall we? That's fabulous. Thank you very much. That is going to really help my research. Thank you very much. A story coming together live and direct on this The Portugal News Review Thursday, a special because we have fifth Thursday and a fifth Friday. We'll have a Feel Good Friday, a bit of Feel Good Friday fun tomorrow. So we may continue to have a bit of a look at the news, but we'll focus on the feel good stuff. Let's go back to those news pages. We've got a God Squad tip of the day to come. And I'm not sure whether I should play the Ron Rogers. I made my very own video to a Ron Rogers track, which is very graciously allowing me to play. It's not ideal for Ron's taste, but he's been gracious enough to let me play it. And the main thing is it goes along with his latest and marvelous tune. One of those Francesinas can feed 4 people. It can, João Ernesto, but it needn't. I can tell you, in UK, in England, the fry up is the ultimate hangover breakfast or cure. I think the Francesina is good for that. If you're ever feeling a little bit hungover and you need your vitality back, the Francesina with chips is probably with a little Imperial is a really good way to put the world right. But that was in the before times. No airport security theatre. Yes, nicely put. When I could sit on the captain's lap and play with the aircraft's controls. Yes, those are the days I'm talking about. Happy times. And the pilot would be drinking. Probably would he have a gin and tonic? Just one gin and tonic for me. I am flying an aeroplane after all. There is a new low-cost airline. Fly Help. Please don't. I mean, it was bad enough calling an airline Play. We've got an airline called Help now. We do not want to hear names like that. Fly Help with flights to Iceland. Yeah, I mentioned it earlier on. So what was that we were looking at? Flights to Canada, direct flights to Canada and direct flights to Iceland, which Baddy might be interested in. Viv, have you had an Imperial already this morning? Frances, I has. That should be Francesina's, I think, but it came out a bit too soon and with a bit of autocorrect on it as well. Don't forget, Soldad does autocorrect to sausage. Apropos of nothing this morning, but just to save you any embarrassment. If you are sympathizing with a Portuguese friend, perhaps one of these days, and you put "saudade" on your message, just like a one-word response in a text message, just to sum up what they might be feeling and how you understand. And you type in "saudade" and you press send, only to look at what you've just sent, and it says "sausage," and you never hear from that Portuguese friend ever again. Which might work to your advantage. I don't know. I really miss being able to waltz straight up to the gates to meet your family on the flip side. Yeah, or walk them out to the airplane. Right? Come on, let's just relive all our airline memories, many of which will be made up at this point. Being met by your loved ones, right? Yes, there you go. As you step off the plane, that's right. And they say, "Here, can you hold my rifle for me?" I felt like I needed to bring my rifle with me. Okay. And a nuclear weapon. You never know. Fly to Hell Airlines. Is that the next new one that's about to launch? Direct flight to Beelzebub. To Hades. Speaking of bad omens, Burbank Airport has a statue of Amelia Earhart. They mean well with that, don't they? They're talking about the upside of that story. I think we were going to use one of the cheap bargain airlines to go to France's Barack, but it got stupid with nickel and diming. So that's what you call it. Yeah, and eventually, that's right. I can understand this sentiment. So you think, well, actually, I don't want to play this game with you. I'm just going to book a flight where I don't have to mess about. And so you opted to fly TAP, which, of course, all Portuguese people know means take another plane. Crash Airlines always sticks the landing. That sandwich, it won't let me type. Yes, that's right. I knew what you meant, Francesina. Are always good under any circumstance. I'm with you on that. And I really feel like one now. I don't look like one, but I feel like one. Impact Airlines really leaves an impression. Thank you, James. There's an insurance company near us called Big Hope. Poorly named companies. Please continue in the chat. And let's take a look at the front page of the Portugal Resident and see what's going on there. It's definitely silly season. You can tell that the politicians are on holiday, and most of the journalists are as well, apart from the hardworking journalists at the Portugal Resident. Thank you very much, Mrs. M. Nice cup of not cup of chai, a cup of coffee in there. It's a brandy kind of day, I think. Hint, hint. No. I think I've hidden my brandy in the garage, so it'll be difficult for you to find. Sorry. No, difficult for you to find for me, not for you to find for yourself. Check in the toilet cistern. Right, I'll say only good things. Yeah, it is unfortunate, isn't it, how the cachet or the reputation some companies develop stays with them, however hard they try to shake it off. And indeed, when they do shake it off, as it were. A little Taylor Swift reference, which I'm not apt to making, generally speaking, here on the Good Morning Portugal show. But Taylor Swift had a bigger economic effect, I think, coming to Lisbon. In fact, people chose to fly to Lisbon to see Taylor Swift, didn't they? Rather than see her in her own country, because it was cheaper to come to Portugal to do that. Where was I going? I know. Until I was pleasantly interrupted by a cup of coffee here. We're looking at the Portugal Resident now. We're going to move away from the Portugal news, as in the brand, the Portugal news, because Pam doesn't like it. And we're going to look here at My Beloved, which is published today. And we have a subscription offer, actually, for Gumpers, which you can find at the Portugal Club if you want a discounted subscription and have this delivered directly to your door, which can be a bit patchy, apparently. Sometimes it doesn't come, and then next week 2 will come. But if you want it in the post, which is a nice surprise, isn't it? And it's the closest we get to the little lads on bikes that we see in American movies, throwing a wrapped paper onto your lawn, only to be sprayed with the sprinkler. The postman will bring it to you here in Portugal and bring you such headlines as demand for Algarve property increases. Oh, I think we already did this, didn't we? Fatasil, Portimao to install CCTV. Oh, yeah, that's as far as we got. There's a shocker of a story, I have to say. I won't dwell on it, but for those who are interested in such things, COVID-19 vaccines, Infomed, the medical agency of Portugal, the official agency, which is looking after us, Infomed hid truly devastating deaths. That is an absolute shocker. And one of our esteemed colleagues who makes a lot of videos posted up something about that on YouTube, and it was immediately taken down, and they were given a stern warning about it. So that a talk through of that has gone on to Rumble instead. But well done, Natasha, on continuing to keep an open mind and to refuse to be conditioned into what you report about this and other things, in the way that, interestingly, Mark Zuckerberg has said, yeah, sorry, we bowed to government pressure. We realized that wasn't a great thing to do. I don't know. The guy is, why now, Mark? And he's gone from looking like a cyborg to having curly hair and a rosy glow to his cheeks, like he's discovered psychedelic mushrooms or something. I don't know what's going on, if he's having some sort of personal breakdown, if he's been told to say. What do you make of that? What do you make of Mark Zuckerberg's admission that it probably wasn't right to be told what they should censor on Facebook? I mean, we kind of all knew that, Mark. We could have told you that, but it's nice that you've finally caught up with everybody and are thinking that yourself now. President warns of confusion created within the immigration debate. That might be quite a nice one. Not a nice one, but an interesting one to look at. And there you go. There's that Iceland Algarve link there. Can you imagine that? People in bear skins at one end in Reykjavik, and wiping ice off their beards, the men and the women, of course. And then they land in, there's a bikini underneath the fur coat. That is the way to travel, I think, from Reykjavik to Faro, isn't it? Fur coat on when you get to fake fur, of course, when you get on, or secondhand. You don't want to waste things. Yeah, wear your fur coat, and then underneath your swimsuit, and then you just ditch the fur coat or put it into lost luggage or into a locker at Faro, and then run onto the beach. I mean, I'm guessing the Icelanders, if they're anything like other Scandinavians, will probably wear nothing under the fur coat and just run straight into the sea naked. That's the way to do it. Oh, talking of naked people on beaches, oh no, they're not completely naked here. Bagna Santo celebrated on Mantarota Beach. Does anybody know what that is? But they look like they're having a good time. And the Bolo de Berlin bags, not only do I want a Francesinha, I want a flipping custard donut now. Bolo de Berlin bags used to raise drought awareness in Castelmurray. You can't have any fun these days without someone virtue signaling on the packaging, can you? There you are. You're on the beach, and you're just about to get, the man's gone by with his little honker and his rattle or whatever to draw your attention to his fine Bolo de Berlins, which of course we know are covered in sugar, so you can't taste the sand. And you're eating that, and you're thinking, life is so good, isn't it? Here I am on the beach, baking in the sunshine, having a custard donut. Someone's brought me an Imperial. This is the life. And then you look on the packaging and you're being told off about wasting water on there. I mean, we need a holiday sometimes from these things, instead of flipping dismal information finding us everywhere we go in the world these days. What were we going to look at? We're going to look at the president. Here we go. Right. God Squad, the fur and bikini. They are, aren't they? The fur and bikini jokes are writing themselves. Yeah, I mean, it's not like I stay up late at night writing these jokes. In case anyone was wondering, I have to find a flow state, Ubi, in the moment. I might have to try and add some sauerkraut to your fur coat. That could get messy. So, no. Actually, no. Don't, Ubi. You are not, you're not. You're often controversial, is what I mean to say. And this is why you say things like this on a show that is dedicated to living the good life here in Portugal. And you're talking about adding sauerkraut to a Francesinha. The president here is talking about an outrage. He's got enough on his plate with having to deal with this as well. Sauerkraut on a Francesinha, indeed. I'm taking that off the screen. You're so out of order, Obi, quite frankly, for even thinking that, let alone writing it on the screen there. Right. So President Marcelo, and I think it is okay to refer to him as that. It's how the Portuguese refer to him, as Marcelo. And when you've got a single word name, you've become a bit of a living legend. He warns of confusion created within the immigration debate. This, of course, I think is referring to Chega's proposal. Yeah. Now oh, by the way, on Facebook, one of our old Facebook groups is now GMP TV News, Views, Highlights, and Delights. So it's been dedicated to a stream of information, which has included a couple of videos about Chega's proposal for a referendum on immigration. The president has waded in. If he's not wading into the sea with his budgie smugglers on rescuing damsels in distress, he's wading into arguments in Parliament. metaphorically speaking, because they're not actually there at the moment, there is a difference between reality and narratives constructing about it. You can see he's a wise man as we open with that quote. That's what Mark Zuckerberg will be saying in another 6 months' time, I suspect. There is a difference between reality and narratives constructed about it. Just in case any of us didn't know that, it is a useful reminder. Portugal's President Marcelo Rebelo de Sousa, to give him his full name, warned today of the difference between the reality of immigration and narratives that are constructed about it. Oh, yes. In response to a question about Chega's proposal for a referendum on immigration, and I asked this directly of Gilda and of Nunu last week on the Dream Team session. We'll have one of those tonight, and you can hear their response over at Facebook or on GMP TV. Actually, the clip is there. We needn't worry. There is obviously a challenge, a problem around immigration in Portugal. No question about that. But it did come as some relief, I think, to many, that our particular community, and I do recognize we're very privileged and we're very lucky. But around the D visas, the D2, the D7, this is not the focus of this particular conversation or outrage. Marcelo said he believes it is fundamental when talking about immigration in a country like ours, which has always been one of emigration, to know what we're talking about. He was responding. No one bothers to know what they're talking about, do they, before they talk? I don't. He was responding to a question from a student at the PSD Summer University taking place in Castelo de Vide, Porto Alegre. Very good. In his answer, Marcelo detailed the figures on immigration in Portugal. To conclude, to keep these figures in mind is to keep in mind the difference between reality and speeches or narratives. I think that's firmly aimed at Chega. The question referred to Marcelo's analysis of Chega's proposal and what constitutional framework a referendum could have. Referendums suck. I'm British, and you can take my word for that. Marcelo began by explaining that the country has roughly 1 million immigrants, out of almost 11 million, who are the resident population in our territory. Of that million, how many make up the Brazilian and Luso-Brazilian community? Perhaps more than 300,000, growing rapidly, and likely to be more than 400,000 by 26 or 27. 2026, 27, that is. From Brazilians, the president moved on to Ukrainians, saying that there are about 70,000 or thereabouts in Portugal, including old immigrants and victims of war, who together account for nearly 40% of the total. Let's add communities that are also old and solid. How dare you? He's referring to us Brits as old and solid. Not all of us. Cabo Verde, Britain, Cabo Verde, Angola, and India. We will have not far from 200,000, and that's nearly 60% of the total. It's lovely though that he does put the Brits in the same category as the former colonies of Portugal. Marcelo, I guess it's old friends, isn't it? Marcelo, and I use the term loosely for some of those places, of course. Marcelo identified other classic European groups with Italians and French at the top, which account for almost 2/3 of the total. Yes, there are a lot of Italians here in Portugal, with immigrants from Portuguese-speaking African countries, not Portuguese African countries, Portuguese-speaking African countries on the one hand, and those from the Americas on the other hand. It comes to some 70-some percent. Let's not forget the recent arrivals from Asia, such as Nepal and Bangladesh, and will be approaching the total, he added. Marcelo went on to say that the majority of the communities are Christian, of various faiths and churches. What weight do Muslim and Ismailis have? I've never heard that phrase being used, but anyway, probably less than 10%, he said. Immigration has, so he's fact-checking Chega here. What weights are therefore, okay, sorry, I've read that already. Immigration has been high on the political agenda of Chega leader André Ventura, who has announced a demonstration for September the 21st against what he considers to be uncontrolled immigration and insecurity on the streets. Now, when Nunu talked about this, he talked about some of the awful conditions some people are living in who are coming to Portugal. That can't be good for them or for Portugal, can it? But I'm sure this debate will run and run, as immigration debates run and run in every country around the world where large numbers of immigrants are arriving and are part of the societal and political picture. Anyway, the last line of this is, since then, the government has ruled out any kind of referendum anyway, and various sectors of the economy, construction, agriculture, have stressed they could not operate sustainably without immigrants. So perhaps the thing to do is to look directly at the facts and the situation that we have and do something about that, rather than go around it in these political circles. Yeah, maybe approach it on a humanitarian rather than political level. Thank you very much, Portugal resident, for that. A quick look at your front page. Shager hate us. Do you think so, Pam? In many ways, it's okay. And de Souza, thank you very much. Not Souza, but Souza. You're my sousaphone this morning. It is a sousaphone, not a sousaphone, but that is probably because it's incorrect. Thank you, James, for that. Coo. I wonder what that means. Shaker haters, maybe symbolically in a way, but I don't know. That we have to be careful, don't we? Because that's all like a blanket. That's a blanket response to their kind of blanket judgments, isn't it? But I do get that. I do get the sense of that, Pam. I very rarely know what I'm talking about. Yeah, exactly. Join the club. Actually, change that to never. Yeah, there you go. I would be quite happy to be solid. Okay. All right, but I'm thinking more lithe and limber rather than old and solid, James. That's where my mind was going with that. And Ola, good morning, Liz. Good morning to you in Paris. Well, I worked in the airline industry for over 20 years, of which 12 in South Africa and UTA. French Airlines later, Air France, and I was lucky to fly all over the world. How lovely. Good for you. I mean, it really is a glamorous industry, isn't it? In essence and in history. And you think of like Come Fly With Me, where you've got Leonardo DiCaprio dressed up in a captain's outfit, which is something I've often wanted to do. Yeah, I'm not quite sure where I'm going with that. I think differentiating immigrants enables Shager's racism. Yeah, as it generally tends to do. It's a kind of playbook thing, is it not? But that's not to say we might not have an intelligent conversation about all of it. It just tends to. It's a culture war subject, isn't it? It's a hot button, red button subject, and so often, as is true with so many things, it seems, Pam, is that we don't really get anywhere useful, tangible, constructive, because it just crosses a minefield of emotional reactions on every possible side and shade of opinion. So you tend not to get to what might be useful for actual human beings who are actually migrating and facing difficulties, the likes of which they didn't anticipate when they were looking at the upside of improving their fortunes when moving abroad. I think we need more intelligence and compassion in that debate, don't we? Rather than name calling and summary judgments and division and polarization. Interesting. The sousaphone, actually, James, was created for a lightweight tuba for marching bands by John Philip Sousa, an American composer famous for his marches. In Portugal, his name would likely be João Felipe Sousa. Thank you very much for that. That's a factoid worth including in our treasury of such, the Portugal Club. It's only 2 minutes to go. I can't believe how this happens every morning. You'd think I would have figured it out by now, wouldn't you? Good to see you here this morning, Michael Heron. Good to see you earlier on, Deagle. That was after James's Portuguese, which I always feel I should include a little bit of vocabulary. It all helps. Bom dia, gambas. Feliz quinta a todos. Quem tem feito? How you doing? Bon dia, Carl and Gambas. Most school children back at school after and above rainfall in May, June, July, where we got a mini heat wave 20 plus until next Wednesday, 6 days. No rain, blue skies. Hashtag love Belfast. Good morning to you, Deagle. And bon dia a todos. Feliz quinta tudo bem. We're off swimming with the little ones this morning. Then a picnic and a visit to the Henry Moore Studios and Gardens. How lovely. These two are very artistic and they're going to get some inspiration, aren't they? Now, if you're going swimming, I actually did the old lion bar in the pool trick the other day for my children. And it didn't go quite as well or as funny. Me and Mrs. M enjoyed it, but the kids just thought I was being gross and stupid. I'd do it again, though. I would do it again. God, especially the bit where you say, I wonder, and you pick it up and eat the lion bar that you fished out of the pool with the net. God Squad tip of the day. As we've talked about, squats are a great way of building leg strength. And if you're American and don't know what a lion bar is, that's completely ruined. As we've talked about, squats, picnic maybe, a topic, hazelnut in every bite. As we've talked about, squats are a great way of building up leg strength, but there are other exercises that can help as well. One of my favorites are step-ups. Yes, step up this morning. You can do those on stairs, starting with 1 step and building to 2. Climbing stairs is also great. And if you get really enthusiastic, run up them. That's what you recommended to me for firming my buttocks, Coach Turner. It's why living in a bungalow is not good. And that's hence the syndrome of the bungalow legs. And it seems like a good idea, doesn't it, to get a bungalow so you won't have to go up and down the stairs, but your stairs might be the key to your fitness. My mother, she has 3 flights of stairs that I think she knew. She knew that those stairs would keep her fit. Well, I'm saying you need to move. Mum knows best. Bon dia, Alegria Gumpers from T-Duck back at 8:55 this morning. And Em, sorry, Em, forgot to say hi to you this morning. Bon dia to you as well. So it's 10 o'clock. It's time for us to go off and eat pastel donatas and francesinhas, but not until I've shared the last of the comments this morning that you've been very kind to draft and send in to me. Good to see you, Ubi, as well. No hard feelings on the francesinha and sauerkraut, but just stop it, okay? To business or first class, by the way, jump seats in the cockpit are very uncomfortable on a long distance, but seeing landings made it worth it. That's amazing, isn't it? And I wonder what the pilots felt like. Oh, no, hold on a minute. I missed a bit of context here. For almost free, that was you flying around the world on standby, which led to nail-biting moments of not knowing if you can board a flight. But on the upside, I did get to travel in the cockpit sometimes, got upgraded to the jump seat. I see now. Very good. Or business class. That's fantastic, isn't it? Is that what happens when you work for an airline? Does that still happen if you work for an airline? We have an old friend who used to be a stewardess on Pan Am. Yeah, what are they called now? Cabin crew on Pan Am back in the 60s, 70s. She always had a twinkle in her eye and a bit of a sly smile as she recalled her halcyon days. Yeah, there you go. And they sell lion bars in Intermarché. Yummy. So there you go. You can do that prank at a local swimming pool. Is it from Caddyshack originally, I think? Fond memories of a tiny airport in Namibia with a local dog welcoming you at the foot of the plane. Now I almost hate flying and wish I could take the train everywhere. You see how times have changed. And I have 4 flights of stairs to my apartment and I take the elevator. Veronica. Have a good day, folks. And Pan Am, it's true, isn't it? Was the golden days. I mean, that's when you've got Leonardo DiCaprio. I think was Pan Am really the epitome and the apex of what it was to fly around the world when people still wore suits. The passengers, it is, you'd get dressed up to fly and you'd be fed and it would be fabulous. Will we ever return to that? Probably not. But I suspect something else will come along. The Baby Ruth bar. Thank you very much for that. I don't know what that is, but I suspect that's a translation for carrying out the heinous pool prank act there. What UK chocolate is hard to get in Portugal? Most of it, actually, Jackie. We can get a few of them, but it's very expensive. I think I'm quite shocked when I see a Twix or a Mars bar. That's like 150 euros. It's probably cost that. It probably costs a lot more than that in the UK, but it does seem a hell of a lot to pay. I like to buy them, in a multi-pack or on special offer. Because I'm thinking these things must cost cents or pence to produce in a factory, and it's a lot of money for something that's been extruded, that's mainly made of waste products from other parts of the food industry with added sugar and a chocolate coating. But what was it we were talking about the other day? I'll have to get back to you on that. And any Brits watching, Karamak, there you go. Your question has been answered immediately. We managed to get a curly whirly and the kids like that the other day. The poop in the pool is Caddyshack. Thank you very much for that. I was never going to refer to it as such, but anyway, I love the Baby Ruth bar, but my fave is a Payday bar. I don't know what people are talking about anymore. My mind immediately went to work on aging and losing the thrill of flying, something using time flies. Well, thank you for that. You could come back tomorrow and finish that joke off if you like. It was always so impressive. Yes, that's what I'm talking about. The Pan Am captains, like a mother duck, the captain and the first, what are they called? The second captain, the flight lieutenant. What are they called? The second captain, is it? Second officer. The second officer and a gaggle of stewardesses walking behind them. And it does seem quite, of its time, doesn't it? You might not see that so much these days, but it was very special, no question about it. And thank you. Karamak's on the way into Portugal, I think. Come on, you got to let me go now. Please stop making comments. We'll play Ron's video tomorrow, my slideshow to Ron's excellent music, and we'll come back to Porto and we'll complete the week in which we introduced the treat of the week, the Portuguese point of interest of the week, car of the week, and the real estate property of the week as well. Co-captain. That sounds so woke and new. isn't it, rather than second officer? Second officer is not gender based, is it? Anyway, let's not end the show on that controversial note. Let's just say bon dia a todos, all is well, with Ubi and him sneaking his sandwiches into the show. Yes, please don't bring your own food. Please buy approved food from the cabin crew, who will now take care of your every need. This has been your captain, thanking you very much this morning. First officer, not second officer. Thank you very much for that, João Ernesto, one of our frequent flyers here on Good Morning Portugal Airlines. Gump Airlines for short. So please remember to take all your belongings with you. And I hope you have a very pleasant stay in Portugal today. And we'll see you again tomorrow, where we'll be taking off at 0900 hours from São Martinho de Porto International Airport. Take care and a bye for now. Coming to Crosscheck.
In Portugal, there's a YouTube show full of fun facts you need to know. Carl rings the bell and the members show to the GMP morning show. Featured guests will come and they will blow your mind. The audience will do so in kind. The little vanity mixed with some insanity on the morning show with GMP.